Hello, how's it going? And I am introducing a new series to this channel just because somewhat I am getting somewhat bored and I actually took a lot of time on my day to make this. Um, I think with how I want to do this, this is going to be a Survivor episode review, and I know I am starting a little late, but I kinda came up with the idea just recently now. So I think if this does get enough attention, if it does get enough views, I will put more effort towards it. I think I want to keep doing this. It just depends on how much effort I can put in every week. And honestly, if it does get attention like I want it to, I will make an effort to do this every week. And I'm willing to put in the effort just because I have so much dedication towards Survivor. So I just want to move straight into it, and I think this was a very, very interesting episode. As for the result, I would say is a little lackluster, but I think that's something we can get into later. I think we just want to get right off to the start. So coming into the episode, we we just came off of a very insane blindside of Gem. Jem was a very like crucial player to a lot of people on that tribe, and she went home idle in pocket, and so now we're kind of left in the dark of what's gonna happen, and we're left with Mariah. So essentially, Mariah is the one person that was on the outs for the vote, and Mariah's reaction to this is kind of baffling. She does play it off a little well, though. She immediately gets off her butt and goes, "Hey guys, no hard feelings." And I think what she does here is very crucial because I think for someone like Mariah, her like accepting like somewhat defeat and saying, "Oh yeah, I get it. Like I understand." If she can fully convince those people, she can get those people to come back to her. But essentially, my thoughts on the tribal was I don't really kind of understand why Maria did that, except for the fact that I mean she didn't even know about the Journey 6 that Tim had made. Tim never told her, so her making that move was kind of more just Charlie's move. I would more credit this move towards Charlie, who I think Charlie played it off perfectly. He said, "Oh, we're the duo. This is our decision." I think this is way more Charlie's decision. If it was Maria's decision, I think Maria would have definitely wanted to keep Gem because it just makes more sense for Maria's game. I don't think Maria's game really tanked that much though. Um, I just think it was an overall good tribal, but I think this really sets a precedent for Mariah going forth because I think coming into this episode now, Mariah is somewhat in a spot where she can get taken out. I think always coming into a merge vote, which also back to here, I think coming into a merge vote, you always have to think about who is the most like wastable people you can vote for. Like you don't want to strike the Cobra first. Like you don't want to go swinging into merge, which I think is a huge problem for why people are so bored of Survivor these days. And so naturally, I think people like and Mariah Soda and like Venus will all get targeted coming into this vote, which I had originally put. So we'll get to that. But before we get into the merge, I want to talk about Hunter. Hunter, he, before we had merged, had found the idol in a very exciting scene. They're pulling up on the boats, and he's like digging, 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 and he finds it. And I'm really glad this happened because I think Hunter is someone who's going to be a very big threat going on forth, and I think he's really going to need this idol. And I think the whole problem that everyone's going to have coming into this merge is people don't realize Hunter is a triple threat. He's strategic, he's social, and he's physical. People only view him for his physical side, so I think people may think that they can just take Hunter along and just fool him, but I think Hunter's way more smart than that. I think he lets a persona like kind of hide. I think there's way more behind that head, and I think Hunter is someone who is a crucial player coming to this merge. I think he'll be a type of person that you'll lean on to like. He's gonna be the one that I don't think wants people to rock the boat. Um, like just like going later in this merge, I think just Hunter plays the game so well. He knows who to talk to, when to talk to. he knows who to avoid like people wondering if he's playing all sides. Yeah, I think just naturally Hunter is going to be a good player, and it's very hard to see that in New Survivor because I think with the modern Survivor twist, it's more against physical players in the game. Physical players never make it that far because they're always viewed as OG Survivor. We're in a new era. New era is if you're strategic, if you're social, you stay. We're taking out the physical people because we'd rather work with each other and know that we can take each other out when we can. They don't want to deal with someone going on an immunity streak. They don't want a Mike Holloway. They don't want that type of stuff. And I think a lot of people get that wrong. Like people think, oh, you got rid of your biggest challenge strat. Like you got rid of your biggest challenge prowess, and now you can't win challenges. That's your fault. It's it's not really anyone's fault. It's smart gameplay. If you see someone like that and you can take a shot at them, you take a shot at them while you still can. Because you might not be able to do that. Especially with this Journey 6. Journey 6 is revolutionizing the new era because now you have all these meatbags realizing, hey, let's not get tossed around like other seasons. But I don't want to horse around too much. I think we gotta get into this merge. Now, let me just get it straight off the boat. I hate I know everyone says I hate the fake merge. The fake merge has always been to me something that's like a cop out to like just save the more exciting people for merge because the more exciting people for merge are more prone to win immunity. Like they are more push heavy to win that immunity because they want to live another day to save themselves. The people who aren't are usually on the other group. And that's why you like I think I pulled sorry. I think I'll get to that later with the challenge, but like I just hate the fact that they don't get to merge and not everyone gets the feast because the feast is just crucial to Survivor. Like, yeah. Um I wanna preface this though. Coming into the merge, and I have this written down, so don't say this as any spoiler, and don't think it just looked ahead. Um, Going to this merge, the people I had expected to go home, who I had a good idea who would probably go home, Venus was number one. I think Venus had a huge target going into this merge, and I think Venus coming into this merge did have a huge target. She was immediately talked about to everyone, and she kind of went rambling. Um, so was Mariah. Like I think Mariah had a huge target on her back as well because like no one was really gonna stick their back towards saving Mariah. Like even Siga wouldn't save Mariah if they had to. And I think the same thing with Soda. Like my three people that I would expect to possibly go home would be Soda, Venus, or Mariah. And that's because in a game of Survivor, you have to have at least one person that will stick up for you. And if that one person can't stick up for you, then it's over. Because one person is actually crucial enough because a connection leads to another connection and that builds a tree. Um, and I think that's what a lot of people make the mistake of. They think that since they were in a tribe together, they're all good. No, like someone like Venus obviously didn't really keep those connections, but it's whatever. But the dynamics coming to this merge though is very interesting because I think there's a lot more depth to the connections, and it's not just like point blanky, just like you can just say it's tribe lines because the tribal lines are there, but they're not as much as previous seasons. Like it's not an all-out tribe battle because there is that six-person alliance where maybe Siga isn't really necessarily in that alliance. Those other four though are somewhat connective and it somewhat builds a huge alliance if that tribal lines happen, and which I think that's going to actually enact in later episodes that Siga's not going to want to stick together because if they stick together, that group of eight, which is purple just plus orange because of that six-person alliance, but then if they think Siga's not wanting to stick to that six-person alliance, then they're just going to all turn on Siga, and that's just not good for Siga. So I think it's better if Siga can eventually maybe get out of Nami and then eventually just erase those tribal lines because I think that's what needs to happen if they want to make it further in the game. Now, as for idols and pockets, you have essentially you have Tiff with her idol, which only the Purple Tribe knows. Though I think Tiff is more wishy-washy on whether I think if she's gonna be able to use the idol right or not. I think Tiff might feel some paranoia at one time and may use it because Tiff is more of an emotional player, and that's not bad. Tiff, uh, Tiff essentially like speaks with emotion. Like they went off on Bonu, I think, earlier in the merge, no, in the pre-merge, and that essentially allowed for like me to be able to see what kind of player Tiff is. I think Tiff's a really good player though. I really do. But if she can bottle those up, I think Tiff actually has a really good chance to win the game, as does Hunter. But with Hunter, I'm gonna say this: if Hunter wins this season of Survivor, I will not know what to think because Hunter has had some of the biggest talk on his back already, than more than anyone has in like the whole pre-merge of the new era of Survivor. I've never seen someone get talked about so much and so shadowed with an edit. It's confusing. And especially with him having the idol. I think they're trying to give him somewhat of a like a new like Boston Rob. I think that's what they want with him. I think they're trying to give us a new Boston Rob, and that is Hunter, which I'm not complaining. I think Hunter is very entertaining, which I think a lot of people would disagree if Hunter is entertaining or not, because I think a lot of people may consider him to be a little boring, especially with the edit that shows him. But I really like his story, and I just think he generally flows well with people. He talks to people so chalantly, and it's like it's smooth. Like, especially during the idol, he just like he didn't stutter on what to say. When he talked to Tevin first day, he didn't stutter on what to say either. He knew what he wanted to say. He planned it out. And I think Hunter is someone how I would want to shape my game around if I was ever on Survivor. Because I think Hunter definitely has a lot of comfortability with his talk. Now, I think I already talked about the Journey Six, but the Journey Six comprises of Tevin, Q, Tiff, Hunter, Maria, and Tim. So essentially, when what this Journey Six is, I think it was last episode when they went to the journey. It was Tim, Hunter, and Q came up with an idea. It was to make this meatbag alliance, and everyone brings in one, and at a merge situation, they should all have numbers. Now, I think it was a glorious and amazing idea, but I think there's a huge flaw to it, and it's the idea that some people play for themselves, and you got to realize who's going to play for that six and who's going to play for that tribe. And if the tribal lines do a race, I think that big six will come into play. Now, the people that are dragged in were Tevin and Maria and Tiff, which I think coming out of that alliance, I think the people that are dragged in are the most likely contenders to win this season because they are somewhat of the people that were dragged into an alliance, put in a majority, also with a tribe on their side, probably would to never be targeted earlier in the merge because they were trusted enough to be brought into an alliance. They're trusted by that six if it stays. They're trusted by other tribes because that six will convince their tribe to not vote them out if they want to keep that big six intact. So I think the people that made the alliance will be somewhat in danger coming on later. But I think people like Maria, who I think Maria is playing a really good game, and I have to keep saying it. I know a lot of people say Maria's gonna win this game, and I can't even lie. It's like it's hard for me not to be able to see that. But with that big six, though, like in the merge, it appears that only four of the six are somewhat solid, and that was Tiff, Q, um, Tevin and Hunter because they actually were exchanging information where Tim kind of sunk his game. He sunk his game somewhat with that group because he just didn't want to give them anything. And it kind of like annoys me because like you don't keep your option open in the open. Like that's like Survivor 101 and it's like which let me pull up Tim. Like Tim, I really appreciate his like extended edit this season in this like episode. I rarely got to see Tim this whole season, and I'm finally getting a taste of Tim. And it it's like a cotton candy flavor, like, and it might be, it might be a weird comparison, but like cotton candy's good. Don't get me wrong, but like there's just so many flavors of cotton candy, and like you can't keep your options open and like Tim it has so many options, but you don't display that to everything. You display your most expensive flavor. That's what you do because you want people to buy that one. Like if that's the best one for your best buck, you display it and you're good. And I think Tim should be doing that with his big six because obviously his own tribe will probably trust him because they had just blindsided Gem earlier. Now, if he has the possibility to just let them know what's up, I think that's better for Tim's game. He could be a double agent. Now, would he win the game if he did that? No, because a lot of people would snitch on him eventually because they would think he's a big threat. But I think I want to preface this though as well. I think one of the funniest moments in the episode was Maria going, "I'm in the big six. Why would Tim pick me?" Because like Maria's over here like, I'm not even close to Tim, and it's like, this is how good Maria is playing the game. She was brought into a big six without even being close to someone in the big six. She just has that motherly presence. She reminds me of Julie in a way, except I'm gonna say it, and if there's any Julie haters out there, feel free to hate me in the comments. She's better than Julie by like double. I didn't think Julie actually had anything strategic in her head. I don't think Julie was actually that good of a player. Just that she was super social, and that's why everyone wanted to take her out. But enough of Maria. I do want to move on to someone really face forward in this episode. She was basically the face of the episode, and it's for a good reason. Mainly entertainment wise, because it wasn't really that strategically good. But I'm going to be referencing Venus. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Venus if you watch the show. Venus kind of has a somewhat of a following in the Survivor like community already because Maria is like oh not Maria Venus is like iconic. Like all she says and all she does is basically pictured by the book. And she did not step off the gas this episode. She played her heart out. Now, whether it was good or bad decisions, I I totally agree with Venus in a way because if I was in the game, I would also play like Venus because this is your one and only chance to play the game. And I think her whole mentality is like if I were to actually like figure out what her mentality is, I think she is playing to just be an all-star great. Like to come back for another season and become a great of Survivor. But what I just really didn't like was Venus just went straight in. She didn't try to build these connections with these people before like trying to do too much mischievous stuff because like these people barely know you. Like you can't just like go straight to them and be like, "Hey, yeah, so that whole tribe, I want to betray them." Because you gotta realize that with these journeys that you haven't Venus hadn't been on a single journey. You have to realize that a lot of these people who went on these journeys already built some connections with the other tribe. They're gonna find out that you're saying you want to flip, and it's just confusing, you know? Because it's just like, why? Like, she just needed to slow down. She can put her foot on the gas, I think, later, and I think that's gonna be a huge problem with Venus this season. Is I think she just wants to go, and she wants to force it. You can't force things. You have to mellow into it. You can go fast once you have the idea, you know? But Venus really just does not like orange. And I think that's just a huge factor that's going to play into the next episode. Because I think Venus will definitely be an interesting character, especially if she doesn't go home. Because I think once she makes it, if she makes it past next episode, I don't see her going home for a while. Because I think a lot of people are going to want to use her because she is somewhat of a voice. You want to use someone else's voice if you want to pan your own moves. If she agrees with what you want to do, you let her say it, you plan it out. That's your move, but she just vocalized it. And if you can get a jury to believe you, you beat almost anyone in the game without getting that target on your back for planning it. But what I just didn't understand is just there's not a lot of trust towards Venus, which I understand from a point of Tevin because she really wants Tevin out, and they just don't fly together. But like Siga, like why wouldn't they want to keep someone like Venus around who honestly is probably better than Mariah at this point because Mariah isn't really there for y'all. Like she is, but like you also have to realize you just blindsided her the last vote, and why would you just keep her around? Like what? Okay, sorry. Whew. Now I want to preface. I gotta stop saying preface. I will say Mariah in this episode was playing a really good social game, but I think she did overplay her hand kind of a little bit too much. Um, I think you do have to be very honest. You have to be very honest what happens in your tribes because sooner or later people are gonna find out. Like I don't see the point in why Mariah lied about the last vote. Maybe to feel like she belonged more and that she wasn't someone just to be picked off. But in a situation where numbers are crucial, like you want to be perceived as someone that can be picked up as a vote. Like, and I think that's why Mariah had a lot of trouble this episode is because she kind of built the idea that oh yeah, I'm still part of the vote. I'm still good. Like, but like, yeah, I would love to work with you, but like. I also like I'm still good with that other tribe that just blindsided me, but I'm not gonna tell you that. Like if I got blindsided, I'd still want to keep connections with Sega, but I would blast the idea that like I am down to work with y'all if y'all have an idea because I was just blindsided. But obviously, if y'all don't have anything, I might just have to stick with the original, and you probably stick with yours as well. That's just truthful. People respect truth, and that's what's so. But I really do want to move into the challenge though, because I think it's very interesting to say the least. I don't think Survivor's rigged. I don't. But how is it so that all the big competitors, like big physical competitors, are all on one group, and then everyone on the other group was everyone that I had listed to go home for this episode, like who had a chance of going home, like group one. So group one had Charlie, Venus, Soda, which should have a photo, my bad. Mariah, Liz, and Maria. And in that group, no one's touching Maria, no one's touching Liz, and no one's gonna touch Charlie. So That leaves the three of Venus, Soda, and Mariah. And then you have literally on the other tribe, well, the group, sorry, you have literally Kenzie, Tevin, Q, Tiff, who had to pick, and obviously she picked that one because literally have Hunter, who's the Survivor Challenge god right now, and you also have Tim and Nick, and that's basically enough to just win the challenge. Like they never stood a chance. Like I know the editing probably made it look like it was close, but I guarantee it probably wasn't. Knowing just from experience that like sometimes the editing just out of whack just to make it seem like it's close and just to keep things exciting. But as for the challenge though, like I said, the earn your buff thing, I don't really like it mainly because for the fact that it kind of dampens the idea of a merge being chaotic. Like with 13 people, you got 13 different personalities that are all thinking in the idea that they could be voted out tonight. But with this, you have 7 people, 7 people of 13 immune. And it's like, now you got people thinking safe because if you're one of that six, you're just going to settle. You're just going to settle because if it's not me, sorry, bye bye, bye bye. But I also like it on the other hand though that it does get rid of some of my like more sloppier players that I don't like. Like with the vote of who went home tonight, like I was kind of glad because I'd rather keep the more entertaining personalities in the game. And with who went home, it really didn't offer much to be sad about, which I feel sorry about. Just whatever. But with the winning tribe, I think it's just with all those like big people on it, it's just like it gives them a second to just like think about who they should take out, who's gonna be more of a figure towards against them, and it just creates the more it. What I hated about it is just it regained the tribal lines because I think they were starting to blur a little bit, and maybe that was just the edit, but like it brought back the idea of oh, each of y'all give out a name, which Tim sunk his game even more because he hesitated to say a name, and then he said he just didn't want to do Mariah, which I find funny to be. Tim is single-handedly probably the reason why Mariah went home, which is a spoiler alert, but I'm sure if you got into this video far enough, you would realize that that was a spoiler alert. Yeah, it's just it's whatever. I just I hate that twist so much. But I also just didn't like how they just threw out Venus's name like that, and they just could get away with it because Venus was unimmune and they weren't. Like I feel like if a lot of those other people that were safe weren't safe, and Venus's name had been thrown out, I think she would have had more leeway in saying a different name and causing more chaos. And that's why I'm so excited about next episode because I think Venus is going to do something crazy. You can never expect the expected with this girl. Like she's crazy with it, and it's awesome to watch. It just is. And like, yeah. Um. Now post challenge. The position of Yanu, I would say, is easily probably the best tribe right now because there's somewhat of the purple tribe in 44 with Carson, Yamiam, and Heather, where they can just pinpoint themselves between both tribes. And if this does become a tribe game, they'll just ping pong. And I think those three could easily become like a mega three. But I think with Hunter, with Q, he's more inclined to go towards the Orange Tribe because I think he does click more with Hunter and Tevin at the moment. Where with Sega, I don't think he really clicks. Where I think Kenzie actually clicks more with Sega, which can actually create a problem. And actually, with watching the trailer, I think Tiff might have a problem with Q as well soon. And so I think that's gonna create a really good conflict. And I think if Yano does explode, it's gonna do something crazy because I just I want something crazy to go on where it like just separates the tribes and basically like causes for like new alliances to be made. I want another second chance, like another season 31 where the alliances changed like almost every single vote, except for like the final eight and down because like obviously you're gonna stick with your loyalties. And so coming out of the challenge, the names that were thrown out immediately were Venus and Mariah because both tribes were forced to throw out a name. And so out of that, Mariah's name was being more focused, but like I didn't really understand. I on a personal standpoint, I really wouldn't understand that because like why would you want to take out people like Venus and Mariah? Because obviously, if their names were thrown out as people we can vote for, like wouldn't you want to grab on scraps and use those people because if those are the people on the bottom, there's obviously gonna be more people on the bottom, and why wait to make a move when you can make the move yourself and put yourself in a better situation for the later part of the game? Like I feel like people like Liz, Soda, um, sorry I'm saying a lot, but like Charlie and Marie, not even Maria, but I would say like even like Kenzie Kenzie, I know really wants to make moves against the big dogs, so I'm surprised she didn't click well with like Venus right away because both of those people really love playing the game. They do, and I think they want to make moves, but Kenzie is kind of going off to a slow start compared to her like early start. She was going really fast, and she really wanted to make big moves in the pre-merge, and now she kind of slowed it down, which I don't really understand where that came from, but kind of actually happy for it somewhat, mainly because the idea is just I don't really understand the idea of just going for big threats right away, especially if it's for no reason. Like that's just to put on a show to put on a show. Like, mm. But coming out of this, the dynamics of this vote is somewhat more Sega on themselves because they kind of put themselves in this situation of where people think that they're just gonna stick strong. Where I think if they had played it well and actually made it look like they weren't going to stick well, they would be in a way better spot, and they didn't. They messed it up horribly, horrifically. I think the whole Sega tribe kind of got a negative award this episode because a lot of them were very unimmune and they couldn't really do anything about it. And I think definitely if they were able to portray that, Venus would have been gone, and I think a lot of people would have lost interest in the season. So I'm actually kind of happy Venus didn't go home. But it essentially just kind of forced tribal lines, and I think that might stand through for the next episode. But I do think those will start to evaporate soon because this season's not like the other seasons. There's something looming. It's something dark. This season has something like dark looming over it, and I think it's been there ever since like Banu. Like Banu brought somewhat of like a dark area of the game, where it's just constant bashing of your character. And I think the edit might suppose that. And it's a very interesting take, and I could probably get in deeper upon it in like a theme video if that's what y'all want, if this does blow up. Yeah. But um as it was getting closer to tribal though, Venus, I'm gonna talk about this move for a pretty good while. Not a long while, but I think this move is a very underrated move, but it was handled horribly by Venus. So Venus is basically essentially told you have to vote for Mariah or you are going home. And I think Venus, God rest her soul, had the really good idea of saying that just like the mentality of like, why should I go for someone if it's just between us? when we could pair together, save ourselves, and get rid of someone who more essentially is part of this like group. And she doesn't want to be part of this like ping ponging. Like she wants to be in a better spot. And by taking out Mariah, she's not putting herself in a better spot. She's just surviving a tribal. That's essentially what they phrase it to her. If you don't vote for Mariah, you are gone. So what happens next tribal once we don't have Mariah? Just saying. Makes for an interesting take. Yeah, you know? But essentially, since she threw out Charlie's name, and it was kind of poorly done. Like she kind of forced it. Like she was like forcing it like really badly. She didn't really handle it well. Like I'm gonna say like, and I'm trying to keep this short. It's just she handled it horribly. She was like very forcefully saying it like, if we don't do this, we're being dumb. Like why not take out someone that's a bigger threat? Like you don't tell people what to do when you're the one on deathbed. Like you have to put the idea in their head, so maybe that someone else will phrase it. Like I get you're someone that wants to do it for yourself, Venus, but like it just definitely didn't make sense for me. Um, and it really didn't really do anything. I think if she had done it right, it would have actually been a top. It would have been a really good move. It would have been a top 20 like it would have been a top 20 like strategical move of Survivor for me. And that's saying a lot, but it has a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of like theme to it. There's a lot of like honor to it, and it's nice to see. I think Venus has the right mentality. Now, essentially Mariah says before Tribal that she wants to separate from Sika, but she kind of did this way too late. She kind of screwed herself over by not like phrasing this way earlier. She kind of stuck by Sika's side when she didn't really need to. But I think going into this vote, I'm gonna go one by one. Mariah kind of like screwed herself over. Like she essentially didn't really help herself out by like waiting till the last second to decide. Oh, I don't want to be part of Tiga. I don't want to be part of Siga's game. I want to be part of my game. If she'd done that earlier, I think Venus definitely goes home tonight. Now, Tevin, I think he has a very weird entering into Merge. He essentially just pinpoints the idea of just Venus, 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 which isn't a bad idea. It kind of portrays how much power Tevin does have in his merge. Like, a lot of people were just considering Venus based off the fact that Tevin said it. Kenzie, she was kind of a non-factor in this episode. She was just more of a supporting character. I really hope we get to see more of her in the next episode because I think Kenzie is a very cool character. Um, she's not one of my personal favorite. I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, Q had a lot of screen time in this episode. Um, Going into the vote, I think Q had a lot of say on what should happen. He really did want to flip it onto Venus after she wanted to flip it back to Charlie, and it kind of shows how much of a emotional player Q is. He goes into the vote and he's like, if he wants it, he thinks everyone else should do it. Like he's more self like. He thinks that since he wants to do it, everyone else will want to do it, and I think he needs to fix that if he wants to get further in the game. Tiff, she actually played really well this episode, and going into the vote, she just mellowed everything out. She played the hunter part somewhat of like the Yanu, where she was just calming things down. Venus going to the vote is she's just gonna be a crazy wild card going on fourth, and I'm here to live it. I'm here to live it. Soda, she wasn't really here, especially with the photo. Hunter going to the void, he played it very well. He kept things calm. He got it onto Mariah. He kept it on Mariah, and I think this is a lot of Hunter's move here. I think this could be credited as Hunter's move going to the first vote of the merge. I think Hunter has this under his belt, and I think he will bring on plenty more if he is able to not be targeted. Liz, kind of a non-factor. Tim, he's kind of screwing over his Seagull lines by not sticking with his six and just keeping that options on the side while keeping it secret somewhat. Nick, somewhat of a non-factor as well. Maria just kind of stuck. She's just kind of sticking with it, just like she wants to keep her alliances with everyone, which is really smart. And I think she is just doing very well overall. Charlie, his social can really strive going into this vote because I think just definitely like a lot of people heard his name and initially just like instantly threw it out. And I think that's a good thing about Charlie. He just has that initial likability, and that's what I saw first about him. Now the thing with Charlie is I don't think he's gonna win this season. I don't see a chance that he wins because I think he's just too nice. I think he does have some strategic prowess, like especially with that last pre-merge vote where he blindsided Gem. It's not really going to stand out in a merge like this because I think he will stick to tribal lines as much as he can. Now, going into the tribal, obviously I thought it was going to be Mariah, and it was Mariah. She kind of outs herself as the bottom, and I feel like it was kind of over for her because you kind of don't out yourself without telling your tribe you're gonna try to do that to help yourself survive. Now, because then Sega just looking at you like, oh, so you don't want to work with us? Okay, we'll just vote you out. So Venus basically, I know is gonna make it, and Venus didn't really have to do much at Tribal. She just honestly spoke her mind, and she kind of pulled a Doctor Will, where she just says whatever she says, and she doesn't care if people take it with a grain of salt or not. Um, with Mariah going home, I will actually miss her because I think Mariah was actually a sweet. She was very sweet, definitely, and she was like way more characterized in the earlier episodes. I kind of did lose a little track of her going in to this merge, but Mariah, I feel like could have been a better character going on later. But obviously, you had to have a casualty, and I'm fine with that being Mariah as long as it doesn't just continue being like this because I'd rather see more exciting things happen. As for my top three for this episode were Hunter, Tim, and I would say Tiff because I think those three played it really well. And my bottom three are going to have to be Charlie. I think yeah, Charlie. No. Nick, Liz, and Soda. They just weren't in the episode. And my ranking for this episode will be an 8.8 out of 10. But I'll see y'all for the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.